The Whiteout podcast, episode 10. We got a special guest, my roommate and my friend Justin Powers. Welcome in. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Braden. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm pumped to talk some Jets. It's been a very interesting week or so. Um, and yeah, Noah's away sort of sick. He'll be back. I think we're going to try for Wednesday, so we'll put another episode this week. But starting off, how'd you feel about the game last night?
The Jets tried to do their best Vancouver Canucks impression, I think, by blowing a multi-goal lead, but they didn't give up and they were able to fight back and get a win against a struggling Flyers team. So overall, I'm happy that they got the win, but would not have liked it to have been that close.
Yeah, I don't think anybody expected it to be. Kevin Hayes had a day. As much as people are a little bit complaining about David Riddick, he's played very well, and I think there was just a little bit of a. I think we were all over them. We gave up a couple bad chances, and that led to some goals. But overall, David Riddick had an amazing game. Janssen Fialbi is all over the ice again. Very impressed with his game. And Kuhlman and Stenlund both got a goal, so that was nice. Stenlund's was the open net one, but
Mhm.
still nice to see him get on the board. Yeah, I guess if we look back at the Ottawa game, which was sort of just an outright blowout, and then the Toronto game, and I guess who else was it? Montreal, right? How do you feel about that Montreal game? I guess we'll go back to that one because that was sort of I know that was a while ago now, but sort of a loss that the Jets didn't expect to have, I would assume, and probably none of the fans did either.
No, I think that's always a tough building to play in. I know the Bell Center, regardless of how Montreal is doing, is always a tough place to play in. But yeah, I don't know. The Jets just didn't seem to have it that night for whatever reason. It wasn't going their way. So that happens sometimes in the NHL, and just got to fight through it.
Yeah, and I think that's the way that everybody has to look at it. I know after losing to Montreal, then losing to Toronto, another game that I felt like we weren't really. I think we played better than the score shows. After those losing to those two games, people sort of to get a little bit uneasy with the Jets, and I think we tend to do that too quickly. And we have to remember that this is the best players playing against the best players, and there are going to be games where you just don't show up and you don't have it. I think let's not read too far into that. And then I think the Jets team that we want to see is in these last two games. They were completely dominant, and it shows that they're the better team by far. Um, how
Yeah,
did how did you feel about the Toronto game? I guess I'll give you that one because that one was an interesting one for sure.
yeah. I think the Jets, for the most part, outplayed them. I think Samsonov really kept Toronto in it, and I mean, Matthews scored 8 seconds into the game, and Toronto also had an empty netter. So, I mean, you take away those two goals, it's a 2-1 hockey game, and maybe a little bit closer. Maybe the Jets get one, but unfortunately, Samsonov had their number that night, and Toronto's a good team.
Yeah, exactly. There, you can't really take too much away from them. But yeah, I did think the Jets outplayed them. I do want to move into David Riddick because I think he's been just a stellar backup goalie this year. He's played 12 games, 8 wins, 4 losses. He's got a 2.6 goals against and like a 908 save percentage. So overall, as a backup goaltender, him coming in and having the season he's having, I think is just outstanding. I think when they picked him up, they thought, okay, veteran guy. Hopefully he'll, he has experience and playing as a starter, as a backup. So overall, how do you feel about David Riddick's season and I guess the last game he played in?
Yeah, Riddick is an interesting guy because, I mean, you go back a few seasons ago and he was the starter in Calgary for a while. And then last year he goes to Nashville. He's the backup to UC Saros, who is another very good NHL goaltender. Doesn't really play that much. And now he's with the Jets, backing up Hellebuck, who also very good goaltender in the NHL. And again, he's not playing that much, but when he is playing, he's doing the job that the Jets are required for him. And I don't know what they're paying him, probably maybe $1 million a year. And
I don't even think it's
He's doing
that.
the job.
I think
Yeah,
it's very low.
yeah, he's doing the job that they need him to, and I mean, yeah, in the games that he's played, he's done quite well, I thought.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think obviously when I watch yesterday's game, there's a couple things that stand out about Riddick is that sometimes he's not as quick as Hellebuck. Like Hellebuck gets post to post and everything so quickly, and I think Riddick is his worst his own worst nightmare a little bit sometimes, where he'll let in the easy one, but then he'll have some sprawling diving save across the crease that'll happen to him 3 times in a game. He'll make those huge saves. Obviously, that's probably where he gets the big save
The
Dave.
nickname,
Yeah,
yeah,
but yeah, he's a very interesting goaltender. Um, he sort of reminds me. This is a little bit weird to say, but it's like when you're playing in beer league and your goalie, let a flub in from the point, but then on a 2-on-0 breakaway, he'll make some sprawling save. It's just sort of that strange play from him, and it's very interesting to watch because some games, yeah, you'll be like, oh, geez, he looks a little shaky, but then he'll pull out some, yeah, flying across the crease save that'll just sort of bring you back to earth. So it's
yeah. It he can really change the momentum of the game for better or for worse for the Jets, whether that be letting in a soft goal or making a big save. I mean, last night against Flyers, he made a few big saves in the third. I mean, otherwise that game could have gone the other way.
Yeah, totally. And really to take nothing away from the Flyers, I think the way Tortorella runs that group, and it's sort of like watching a little bit like old school hockey. Like there's guys hitting, they're intense, it's fast, it's aggressive. Um, and I think that's something the Jets hadn't seen a lot of this year. It hasn't been um, very physical, and I mean it's a good thing. Like Lowry is a great component for that for us. But just the way the Flyers played is very very different, and from any other team in the league like that I've seen play, it's all offense. It's screw defense. We'll let a 2-on-1 go, but we want 5 guys attacking their zone at all times. So it's a very strange team to watch, but it was sort of intriguing. Like I even in that first period when we scored those first 3 goals, it was you could almost tell like this game isn't over because they just hit you hard all the time, and we're very into it. I moving on, I guess from that game, like we could talk that Flyers game quite a bit, but I mean at the end of the day, I think what happened was the Jets won. Everybody That's what everybody assumed was going to happen anyway. We have them again on Saturday. Um, there were some big talks around the league today, and I think I do want to bring it up because it could impact this team, and I think it should. Um, the situation. I'll start with the deadline coming up, and a team starting to think about the trade deadline. And so I look at the situation going on in Vancouver with Bo Horvat possibly leaving. There was a report that came out today saying he is the um, like best possibility deadline acquisition. Um, is that somebody you want to see on the Jets? Do you think he would fit?
You'll have to remind me, what position is he again? Is he a center
He
or is
is
he wing?
he is a center, I believe.
Okay. See, like for the Jets, that is just one thing that they have a surplus in his centers. Like Shifley and Dubois are probably a top five duo in the league, and then you throw Lowry in on that third line. I mean, I don't really know where Horvat plays because I don't see them moving either Shifley, Dubois, or Lowry to the wing to accommodate for Horvat. I mean, he's a great player, but I don't know if he's the fit for the Jets.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. Where he lies for me is that in a season where the Jets need to make a run, and Horvat's a Canadian guy. He's from London, Ontario. He wants to be in Canada. And I don't honestly know if he wants. He doesn't want to leave the Canucks. I think it's more of a he might have to leave the Canucks. Um, so where I think he could fit in is Dubois' contract is up after this year. Um, so I could see him taking a wing role this year to take over for. And I don't know, who do you rather have? Do you rather have Horvat, or would you rather have Dubois? I think they're a very similar player.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you go prior to the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade a few years ago, for the Jets, it was always that second line center that they didn't have. You go back to 2018, they got Paul Stastny. 2019, they got Kevin Hayes. And Dubois, with that trade, was supposed to be the guy for years to come to play on that second line behind Scheifele. And now you're hearing reports that he doesn't want to stay in Winnipeg. He wants to maybe go to Montreal. And it's tough in a situation like this where you don't really know what the future is going to hold. But for the Jets, anyway, right now, maybe you're looking at Horvat, but it's tough to say. We'll see what happens with Dubois.
Yeah, it's a very interesting situation, and I think um, any team going into the playoffs could use a Bo Horvat. They can always find space for a Bo Horvat. Um, and I really like that idea, but I'm a Canucks guy and a Jets guy, so that would be like best of both worlds for me. Um, but where I think that me and Noah talked about this last time, and I want to get your opinion, where I think the Jets should be looking towards this trade deadline is to add another defenseman. And we've heard reports about Chitrin from the Coyotes being on the move. So I think that's the way to go. Noah talked about getting another solid goalie in case of Hellebuck going down. I didn't like that because I think if Hellebuck goes down, you just that's not something you can bank on or
No,
prepare
he's the
for.
backbone of their team for sure. And I mean, if he goes down, that's tough, but there's really not much that you can do about that.
Yeah. So what do you think? Like, where do you think the direction you'd want to see them go, if they should or shouldn't make a acquisition at the deadline, and where you think they need it? If it's top six, bottom six, defenseman, wherever. What do you think?
I'm a biased Jets fan, so I really don't want to see this lineup change too much. I like all the players, but I think definitely their defense would be the one area that I could see them making a trade for. I don't think that they necessarily need like a top four defenseman. I think a top six will suffice, but who knows? Who knows what Mr. Shoveldayoff has up his sleeve?
Yeah, and as we know, Chevy's not um, a big deadline guy. So it's very interesting, and I agree. I don't think the Jets necessarily need an acquisition at the deadline, but I think if a couple guys fall on the like if it's a Horvat, if it's a Chitrin, I don't think you pass up on those guys if you have an option. eh, Chitrin's an iffy one because I think if you can get him, he'll definitely help the D. He'll be on that top line or top D pairing. Um, but if you go for a Horvat, yeah, it puts your team in a very weird scenario where I think you have to move Barron or Perfetti down to the third line. As much as and which probably wouldn't be the worst thing. I don't know how good Perfetti's going to be going into playoffs as a rookie. So maybe that's something as like a second line winger that another goal scorer, a guy who can produce points, who can be a little physical and play with Dubois. Dubois is a physical player, and I think getting another um, uh, I would say like I don't know how to describe Bo Horvat, but it's sort of like a grinder and a heart guy. I don't think would be the worst thing. That's what this team's sort of built on, right? You got your
Mhm.
Wheelers, your Dubois. So I don't know. I don't know what the solution or thought process would be, but for me, that's I would either go with a it's so tough because I
Keep in
agree.
mind, we're still, goodness, how many days away from,
It's
how
it's
many weeks
almost
away from the deadline?
it's almost
A
a
lot can happen.
it's almost a month and a half, almost.
Yeah. I mean,
So
there's a lot of hockey to be played before then. And I mean, knock on wood that no one gets injured, but if someone does happen to go down in your top six or one of your top defensemen go down, then you're definitely looking to make a move. And again, we'll have to see what happens here in the next few weeks. But um, should anything happen, to one of the players, I mean, the Jets will definitely have to react accordingly.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. It's a decent amount of ways still where if something happens, like the Wheeler thing, like the Ehlers thing, can you afford to lose, say, Blake Wheeler for the first round of playoffs? Probably not.
Probably not.
So can you afford to lose an Ehlers? Probably not. I mean, it was shown that can win games without them, but going into a playoff atmosphere is completely different, and you need those. You need a solid lockdown top six and top two D pairings. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Um, I guess I'll give you closing thoughts sort of on the whole trade and acquisition thing before we move into sort of like I guess the big subject around the league.
Well, like I said, I'm pretty happy with this Jets team as of right now. I mean, they're, I believe, tied for first in their division as of right now. I know Dallas is playing tonight, so that might change. But again, they've also been injured enough this year, and they've persevered through that to be where they are, considering all that's happened this season. I don't know, with a full lineup, I think this team is, I think they're set for playoffs. I don't really see really any need to make any big moves.
I like that. I like that. And so I guess I want to get your thoughts on this too because there was the talk of the whole NHL for the last week, and we didn't overly we covered it a little bit, but um, I guess different viewpoints. I'm of course biased with the Vancouver Canucks. The Bruce Boudreau situation,
Hmm.
it kills me a little bit, and not just the Bruce Boudreau situation, the situation around this Vancouver Canucks team, around the fans that how they're treating everything, how management has been treating everything the past couple of years. So I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant, and then I'll let you sort of jump in and sort of pick
Please,
apart. Um,
I'm here for you. I'm here for you.
so I'm going to start with the management. First of all, I'm going to start where I think the whole problem started, and that's signing Oliver Ekman-Larsson to that enormous, ridiculous contract of I think it's 7.25 million before everything. So I don't even know the thought process. I guess you think a guy's gonna be good, whatever. In my head, as a rebuilding team, you're not signing a guy for that many years. Tyler Myers, another deal that's way too big for what they're getting out of a pylon. Throw a pylon out there, and they'll do more than Tyler Myers. Um, then they signed JT Miller, knowing full well that they're going to have to re sign Horvat and they're going to have to re sign Pedersen. And those two deals were going to be big. JT Miller is, I think, 32 or 34. I think it's 32. Um, Pedersen and Bo Horvat are both young guys. Bo Horvat was meant to be the heart of this team. From Daniel and Henrik Sedin's mouths, they picked this guy to take over a captain for this team, and I don't know the thinking behind this management squad, especially since we have one of the biggest front. I shouldn't say we. The Canucks have one of the biggest front offices in the entire NHL, and not one person for 1 second said, "Hey, let's sign Bo Horvat and Pedersen before we sign this." I don't know. I think JT Miller is a problem player. The little tap on the post or on the crossbar that he gave Delia is something that would not go. If I was the coach of that team or the general manager of that team, would not happen. That is putting a black label on your team. So all this is happening. All this controversy around this team not doing well. The fans are freaking out, which I think is a little bit too crazy because the Jets had a bad season last year. It just sometimes it's like that, right? The Canucks had 7 games that teams came back on them in like the first bunch. So yeah, sometimes it doesn't seasons don't go your way. but I don't think it's throw in the towel, call it a day, um, and start getting upset with this team. I think there's they will and can bounce back next year. Then the whole Bruce Boudreau thing comes out that Talkett was going to be signed as the new head coach. Fair enough. You want to get rid of Bruce. That's if you think that's what's going to help this team, then okay. But you the media knew that Boudreau was fired a week and a half before he was relieved of his duties. His wife would ask him every day if today was the day, and he had no clue. Rick Tocchet had a deal, had a contract proposed to him a week and a half before Boudreau was let go. In my mind, what has to happen is you fire Bruce Boudreau. Fair enough, right out. You let an assistant coach take over, then you sign with Rick, and then you get Rick Tocchet to sign that deal. I don't hate the Rick Tocchet thing. There's some people that are pissed about like the that they signed him from being an analyst, but he used to coach. I don't have a big problem with that. I think he's a fine guy. I'm not too upset. It's the way that it was handled. The fans treated Bruce Boudreau fantastically. This whole fan base did an unbelievable job. I think he felt the city's love and the whole NHL's love on the fact that this didn't happen correctly. Um, and then Rutherford made statements today saying that this is not something that's unusual to happen in the NHL, which just isn't true. Because he's not thinking of it as there's been 12 mistakes in the past 4 years that has led up to this moment. He's thinking about it, oh, well, I fired Bruce Boudreau. That happens all the time. Coaches get fired. And that's just not the situation. And I think that's such an oblivious statement to make from a guy that's supposed to be the front end of this team, the guy who's making the decisions. Like you gotta, it's just a terrible look for this franchise, and it's just weighing on the players so hard. I think this whole season has, and then to do this to them, take away their coach. I think they all liked Bruce. I think he was a good guy. Uh, if this doesn't break the team, I don't know what will. If they don't get Bedard, um, I think they're on a trajectory to do it. What do you think, Jap? Like with this whole situation with Bruce and the Canucks and the signings and everything around this season, how the fans were.
Well, first I'll ask, do you feel better? Because boy, I feel like that has just been eating you up from the inside for a while.
Well, I'll tell you this. So I'm doing the producing of the last couple Jets games, and they're talking about it. They talk about it both games, the last two I was at, and so badly did I want to weigh in because it's as a Canucks fan, we're already like pissed off that we haven't had a run in a good amount of years, and it just keeps getting worse. It's going to be a long time before this team gets better, and I hate to say it, like we're the Canucks are the seventh oldest NHL team, not in the league, but technically the seventh oldest NHL team, and we're the only team without a cup. Not the only team without a cup, but we're without a cup, and we're the seventh oldest team. So yeah, it's frustrating. It's frustrating to sit there and listen to Jim and them all talk about it and not put in my 2 cents. So I had I knew what I was going to go into today. I knew it was
All
going to
right,
be
fair enough. Yeah, I'll tell you, I think maybe the Canucks need to stop hiring general managers named Jim. I mean, you got Jim Rutherford and Jim Benning, and boy, what a mess that they have built. But no, yeah, I agree. I just find it so strange that you hire Bruce Boudreau in the middle of the season last year, and he turns the team around for the most part into a positive direction. I think Canucks fans are excited heading into this season. And yeah, they struggled the first few months, and then all of a sudden, like they just decide to throw in the white towel. And I mean, just can the coach. I don't know how many games. Like, is Boudreaux even been there a full season? Maybe just over. But
yeah.
um, Yeah, it's really puzzling to me from an outsider perspective who doesn't really follow the Canucks like you do. But yeah, I I'm having a tough time understanding it.
Yeah, it's a very interesting. I think it's a very interesting situation in the fact that you don't see other franchises, even when a franchise is bad, they know the direction the team is going in, and I don't think anybody knows what direction that this Vancouver Canucks team is at all. But I do want to give a huge shout out to all the Vancouver Canucks fans, and I think everybody around the National Hockey League in the way that they treated and backed Bruce Boudreau. I think that was it might have been one of the classiest things that I've seen in the NHL in a long time. It was top notch. That was really nice to see.
Bruce, there it is. Bruce, there it is. Yeah, we
Unbelievable.
stand with you, Bruce. We stand with you.
That'll be the
Um,
that'll be the title of this episode. We stand with Bruce.
yeah. No, I mean, go back to 2020 in the COVID playoffs there. Vancouver was they did quite well. They beat Vegas, did they not? Or did they lose
No,
to Vegas?
I think they lost to Vegas. I can't remember
But
now, but I think it
they
was
played really well,
yeah,
I
it
think,
was it was
against
a
them.
good run. Yeah,
Hmm. And then the season after that, you have the kind of the different divisions where you have the All Canadian division, and heading into that season, that the top four teams are making playoffs, and I think a lot of people definitely had the Canucks definitely making playoffs that season. Maybe they were almost right there with Toronto, because again, following that playoff run that they had, I think things were trending in a positive direction, and I don't know what went wrong that year, but they just couldn't seem to get it together. And then you look at last year, and yeah, another just disappointing season for them. And well, same old story for this year, I suppose. And
yeah,
yeah, I mean, you have signings like JT Miller, and JT Miller is a fine player, but again, where are your priorities? Like, you have your captain who needs a new contract, and you're prioritizing Miller over him. It doesn't make sense. And then with Hughes and Pedersen too, like those guys should be untouchable pieces, core pieces of your future, and you're focusing on signing this veteran player who's gonna be on the back nine of his career by the time his contract's over. So I just, it's really, it must be really frustrating for you and all the other Canucks fans to have to endure through all this.
yeah. It's as much as like with what happened with the Jets last year. And I'll bring it back to the Jets. Right, it's the ebbs and flows of the NHL. It's the ups and downs. It's the heartbreaks, the defeats, and then the comebacks and the wins. So it that is sort of what I expected from this Canucks team going into this year. Just as I thought about the same thing with the Jets, right? I thought the Jets are going to be fine. I just everybody chill out a second. It's this is hockey. This isn't chess, and you know what you're. It's not. We know who the more skilled player is. No, this is hockey. Things change every game. Pucks bounce off the boards and slide into the net somehow. They bounce off officials and go like it's just how the league is, and this is it's disheartening. But at the same time, as a Jets fan, I've never been more excited. So it's it's strange year. But getting back to the Jets, I think I could talk Bruce Boudreau all day and the Canucks all day. But I want to think positively. I want to stay positive on this podcast because at the start of this year, I think we weren't sure, and then it's been all happiness since. So, looking
Hey,
ahead,
I got something. I got something positive for you.
okay, let's go.
Connor Hellebuck is heading to Florida for the All-Star game.
Yes, he is, and I am so pumped because nobody on this team besides Josh Morrissey deserves it more than Connor Hellebuck, and there's even a debate that Hellebuck still deserves it more than Morrissey. Is there anybody to you When I say the Winnipeg Jets, that comes to mind besides Connor Hellebuck.
Oh man, I don't know. I'm a huge Helly fan, so I can't really say that I think of anyone else when I think of the Jets.
Yeah, and he's a class act. He's here for the team. He's the heart. He's just everything. That guy is. As a kid growing up watching hockey right now, you must be looking at Connor Hellebuck and thinking, Jesus, I want to be a goalie.
Yeah, and also he is a newly published author. He has a children's book called I believe it's called Bucky Beats the Blues. It kind of tells his story of his hockey story, I suppose, and it's also has to do with mental health. I think it's kind of coming out for maybe like Bell Let's Talk Day. I think yeah, it's kind of for that. So
Yeah, this guy,
great guy.
class act. He he was on Jets at Noon on 680 CGOB a couple, I think it was last week, and he was talking about it, and just an unbelievable story from him. And to hear a little bit more personal side from him, I think was just very nice to see too. And I think that's not a lot of thing. Not a lot of hockey players will, sort of give in and tell you actually, how they're feeling, what's going on, whatever. And they asked him a question: do you feel like the macho man mentality of the NHL is going away? And his answer was no. He thinks that you should be able to do both. You should be able to be the tough, strong guy on the ice, but you should be able to go to your buddies or to your family, and if something's wrong, you should be able to tell them. It's a little bit of both, he said, and it was extremely eye opening. I think as a person who just watches hockey or a fan or whatever, or even a player as a kid, I think this is just hockey's going in such a good direction right now, and it's never been a better time to be a fan.
I agree.
But looking ahead to the next couple games, I guess till the end of January, we have the Predators, the Sabres, the Flyers, and then the Blues. How do you feel the Jets? Give me your prediction. What's your prediction for the next four
Uh,
games?
Nashville, they're on the road for that one. That wraps up their road trip. I don't know how many games that was, 5 or 6, I think. So it'll be nice after that to finally get back home for a bit. But again, it's a Central Division matchup. They're never easy, and I think the Jets should be able to beat them, but only we'll have to see. We'll have to see how UC Saros if he can whip out another 64 save performance like he did against the Hurricanes a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a game changer for sure.
Um,
And then who did you say they have on Thursday?
the
Buffalo?
Thursday is Buffalo. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't watch too much Buffalo. I know that they've definitely been a lot better this year. Tage Thompson is having a heck of a season. Um, but I mean, they'll be back at home. They'll be happy to play in front of a home crowd again. And again, I don't know. I don't like to bet against the Jets too much. I'm not really the best person to ask this question. So
That's why I had you on. It's
yeah,
fantastic. Justin Powers, the homer.
yeah, that's me.
And then we got the Flyers and the Blues. And, I could ask you, but I think I know what your answer is going to be. Are you 4-0 with these guys? You think they're going to go 4-0?
Ah, sure. Why not? Why not? Let's do it.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I think Nashville's going to be a tough game. Buffalo shouldn't be a problem, but Tage Thompson could. He's a game changer. He's a game changer type of
Mhm.
player, so you never know. Uh, the Flyers again. I think we set the tone with them, so I think that'll be fine. And the Blues, for
They're
me,
injured. They're
yeah,
injured.
yeah,
They're injured bad, so
yeah. So
can't take them lightly, but
that's right. You can't take any team in the NHL lightly, but in the same respect, if we're being realistic, I'm going to say 3-1 that they drop one at some point, but like that Nashville game is going to be a tough game. But I could easily see them winning those last three, and then they have the All Star
Hmm.
break. So and then they come back and they play Chicago when they come back. So again, I think that's a perfect sort of lead back in with a maybe not so tough opponent coming back. So I think the schedule worked out in this sense perfect. This whole year, not so great because
Hmm.
it's been crazy. Um, but yeah, I don't know, Jap. I'm pretty much out of stuff here for you. I just want to get sort of your thoughts. I mean, we've been watching hockey so much lately, and I think been around hockey with our fantasy league as well, keeping up way more with stats and everything like that. Where do you think that this team? How far do you think this team is going to go, or do you think that they have a chance at the cup this year? Do you think it's going to be another first round exit? Like, where are your thoughts just overall on this team?
Uh, I'm buying. I'm buying into whatever Rick Bonus is selling. I think he's really turned this group around, and I if they can keep playing the way they have been, I don't really see any reason why they can't make a good run at the cup this year. I'm really excited for playoffs and see what happens in the next few months.
All right, so I'm gonna get into Bui's question of the week right away, but we're gonna take a quick break here just to reset.
Brought to you, we need a word from our sponsor.
We need a word from our sponsor. Brought to you by Zoom Premium. What we don't have. All right, time for the Bui question of the week, which we haven't done one in a while actually, but I figured since Jap is on, I would pull one out. He hasn't heard the question, so this will be a little bit from the hip. I want to ask you, who is your favorite bottom six forward on the Winnipeg Jets?
Oh, interesting question. Um, I think they got some new faces this year, and I've liked what I've seen, but I think I'm gonna have to go with the guy I think that's been there the longest in Adam Lowry. I think that he is he's a real leader on this team. I think a lot of guys listen to him whenever he has to say anything. He's wearing an A for a reason, and he's a physical player as well. He's not afraid to drop the mitts and stick up for his teammates, and I think they all really respect him for that. So I think I'm gonna have to go with Adam Lowry.
That's a great pick, and we saw that in the Philly game, right? He threw down, and holy moly, is he not a guy I would go near on the ice? I would crawl away and hide behind somebody else. Um, I'm gonna go with my selection, which is a little bit off the wall, but I'm gonna go with actually Janssen Fialbi, and that is because he reminds
Because of
me.
his sick hair.
Well, yeah. Hey, it doesn't hurt him. I'll tell you that. um, no, here as a kid, that's the type of game that I wanted to play, and the game that's how I played. I was just speed. I had stone hands. I couldn't shoot. I could pass okay, but so he reminds me a lot of like the way I like to play. He's gritty. He's quick. Um, he'll get in the corners. He'll do the dirty work a little bit, and he's just electric to watch. When I see him zipping up and down the ice, it's fun. It reminds me a lot of Nick Ehlers, that
Hmm.
good entry guy. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's nowhere near Nick Ehlers, but the same type of style of play, just with a little less skill, I would say.
Yeah.
But
Um, they had their skills competition the other week, and man, he can fly. And that hair, that flow is just wow.
did he have the helmet off too?
Oh yeah, he had the
Yeah,
helmet off. He
yeah.
had to showcase that for the fans. But yeah, that's as a bottom six forward in the NHL today. That's what you need. You need to have speed. You don't necessarily need to be the most skilled guy, but if you can dump the puck in and get a quick forward check and make the other team pressure the other team, and maybe they make a mistake, and I mean that's all that I think the Jets are really asking of their third and fourth lines.
Yeah, and they've done a great job this year defensively, even offensively. Just
Hmm.
just the continued pressure. You hit the nail on the head with that one. The continued pressure of there not being a huge drop off from zone time from our first two lines compared to our third and fourth line. And I think in the NHL today, that's huge.
Hmm.
The only thing with this Jets team actually that I think is a little bit of a weak spot is their faceoff percentage, which has gotten better, but I think it could still use work. And I think going to the playoffs, if you get a power play opportunity, I think that first faceoff is the biggest, what could be the biggest faceoffs of the game, and we might struggle.
I think I checked today and it was 48.3%, so definitely not where they want to be. But
Yeah. So
yeah,
that could be an option. You find a good face-off guy. I mean, again, I think you keep Doobie up the middle, but I mean, for a guy to somebody good that can win a draw for you in a big situation like that might be huge for the playoffs. So yeah, it'll be very interesting.
you know who's good
Um,
at faceoffs
let's hear it.
from Winnipeg?
Who's this?
Jonathan Taves.
Don't get me started. Do you think it'd be an option? I mean, I don't
Oh,
know.
I, and I think it could be an option. I think if he's wanting to go anywhere, I think it would be Winnipeg. I think that makes a lot of sense. He's from Winnipeg, obviously, and the Jets are doing quite well this year. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe that's what my inside sources. That's what I've heard, but we'll see.
It'd be an insane move. To be honest with you, I thought you were going to say Scoopy, but
uh,
but
yeah, pay his
yeah,
salary in chicken wings.
that would be interesting. I mean, he's already making his money worth in playing for the Chiefs this year. So
Contract year for him, eh?
it is, yeah. He's got to earn his spot for next year. Um, but no, Jab, this has been fantastic. It's always we got to have you back. It's been unreal. It's always fun when you get one of the boys on. You can just I mean, let me talk about this just sitting on the couch. So it's nice to have you on.
Right on. Anytime you need a special guest, just knock on my door. It's just down the hall. So
All right. Well, I forget Noah's takeout line. I think it's what is it? Take it easy, Winnipeg, or something like that.
I,
It's
uh, I think it is stay classy, Winnipeg.
That's what it
Wise
is.
words of Ron Burgundy.
All right, I like it.
Right on. Thank
Jap.
you. Thank you very much for having me on today, Braden.
No worries. Thanks for coming. It was a blast. Yeah, follow us on our Twitter. It is the Whiteout_pod. Same with our TikTok. I'm gonna try to be more active on both, but it's when you're cutting clips during the game, it's a little bit hard to be tweeting out. So
Can
I will try to be better, and Jap will hold me to that.
can I get a plug as well? Can I plug
Absolutely,
my
Jap.
socials? All
Absolutely,
right.
absolutely.
To the millions of listeners to the Whiteout podcast, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Justin_Powers.
Go make sure you guys follow Jap. His tweets and retweets actually are my favorites, especially when it comes to in the off season. There'll be PG Bui and Ripper season. So there's always Jap always has some content for you. That's hilarious. So yeah, make sure you guys follow him. Follow us, subscribe if you're watching. We will be back for another episode this week, and we have an ask out for the players. If you guys want a comment below, I'm in talks with them right now. I'm going to try to get somebody for some interviews. So let me know who you guys want to see. That's the biggest thing. I'm doing this for you guys. So let me know, and I will try my darndest to get who you want.
I
But
vote Hellebuck.
yeah, oh, I know. If I get Hellebuck, Jack, you're coming back. That's part of it. So,
Right on.
but yeah, so we got them. I'm hoping that I will reach out to Jamie Thomas and Paul Edmonds, see if they want to join us for a couple episodes. The voices of your Winnipeg Jets on 680 CJOB. Yeah, and tune in to the broadcast on your radio this, I guess, tomorrow, Thursday, and Saturday this week. And yeah, I will be doing something at all of them. So go Winnipeg, take it easy. Episode 10, we're out.